So, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Dying with Diabetes in America. My name is Michelle, and of course, I'm here with my co host, Mr. Mike Hurley.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to another episode, you disciples of diabetes. How you doing?
Diabadasses.
Yes.
It's been a really good couple of days with my
hmm
sugar. I love having the freestyle, because it tells me also like where I've been, so that helps
hmm
me. But I'm changing up my breakfast now.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I've been drinking Slim Fast for like 15 years
hmm
because it had a carb count. It never really screwed me up. I could
hmm
take what I knew I needed for it and it would be good. So I actually just started doing half Slim Fast and then putting spinach in it,
hmm hmm
a little bit of Greek yogurt,
hmm
and if I have fruit, I put fruit in, but if not, I
hmm
don't. I take the
hmm
same amount of insulin. It holds me until
hmm
lunchtime, and I get a cup and a half of spinach that you don't taste in
Nice.
it.
Sure. And I'm sure the cup and a half of spinach offsets the 6 donuts.
Shut up.
No,
I
that's
don't
the way
get
it
to
works.
I don't eat donuts anymore. I look at
Oh.
them. Yeah, no, my metabolism like
Mm.
after, 35. It sucks ass now. So,
You know what's funny? I went to Epcot Sunday.
mhm.
My buddy got tickets for the sneak preview food and wine, everything. So I'm like, yeah, I'll throw
Ah,
on a
yes.
mask. I'll go walk around
Get
Epcot,
Corona
and
early.
I have become much more aware of what equipment people are rocking because I'm walking
Yeah.
through going, oh, that's a Dexcom. That's a Libre. Ooh, like I almost went up to someone like, how's that working out for you? Yeah, because I thought it was like the Libre too. I'm like, yeah, oh, let me
Oh
see. Let me
God.
see. Show me on your phone. And I'm like, no, that would probably be intruding upon their privacy.
I can honestly say I think diabetics are the one type of group that you could do that to, and we're just super excited that you're not asking like, is that how you're quitting smoking?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, I've gotten
yeah.
that one before. Or oh my God, is that like some people have ankle bracelets? Yeah, they
Mhm.
insert it in you now. They just said, "Fuck it, we're not going to give you a bracelet anymore."
There's people from Alabama just going, see, Lloyd, I told you, those Republicans, Democrats, they're all trying to track us. Look, they tagged that
Exactly.
one. Yeah.
Exactly. See, she's got the tag. She's here to
hmm
get us all. So I
Aliens have
mean,
abducted her, tagged her, released her back into captivity. Same thing we do with birds and fish.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and everything that we eventually just kill off anyway. So
Oh, it's such a beautiful creature. Let's strap a camera to its back
die.
and see what happens to it.
Yeah.
Like, I always wonder that whenever you see those nature channels, like, we're tracking the migration of the beautiful Alaskan snowfowl. And what we're going to do is take this one, put a backpack camera on, and release it back into the wild. Like, the other birds aren't treating that one any differently whatsoever.
Right. They're not looking at him going like something's wrong with Ed, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know, but we don't even
Frank,
fly near him.
Frank, you wearing a wire? Don't lie to me, Frank. I know where your family nests.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice when people do realize what you're wearing, or like I had to do a needle in at a stoplight the other day,
Mhm. Yeah.
and my kid was with me. We had picked up lunch to go get her school clothes. And I'm looking over, and the truck just kind of pulls up farther next to me and looks over. And I don't know what you want me to say. I could hold up the insulin needle, but
Hmm.
you're not going to understand it any better.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that with as
Mm.
much money as pharmaceutical companies are making,
Mhm.
that they haven't taken upon sponsoring at least one professional athlete or movie star. You don't see any commercials for like, I'm Tom Hanks and I rock the Libre too, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we had Joe Jonas for a while.
Oh,
That
what's he doing? Like commercials and stuff?
no, like he did YouTube videos
Mm-hmm.
on wearing the Omnipod. That was the insulin device he was using way back when I was looking into it, and I didn't know who the hell he was.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh, he's well toned and he can still have that needle inserted, and it's not a constant bruise because he's popular. So people are going to
Mm-hmm.
notice if he's all bruised up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's neat. And
mm
that's how I got into it, not knowing he was part of a little boy band.
Oh
It
yeah.
was just, hey, he's a diabetic. He's apparently
Mm-hmm.
popular, and he's doing well with it. But
Yeah,
they don't.
you
Go
would
ahead.
think that would be easier because a lot of endorsement deals, the people endorsing it don't even care for the product. They're just paying a
Exactly.
lot of money to the people to say they like it. But with something like this, I can't imagine them going like, "Look, we want you to endorse this product. You're going to have to wear it." But I don't even have diabetes. We don't think that's going to factor in. We just
You're
need
just gonna
them.
fill it with water. No
Yeah.
worries.
Listen here, Gaga. If people can see you dancing with this right around your belly, we're thinking it's going to pay off
Dude, if she
huge.
had worn that when she was in the
Hmm.
egg and
Hmm.
had like come out from the egg and covered in
Hmm.
pods,
Yeah.
it would have been
Or
a big coup
Or if
for us.
Shakira just had one doing the during the
On
whole
her
"Hips
butt.
Don't Lie" one, yeah,
Yeah, she could wear it on her like
just
lower hip,
shaking,
just
yeah,
and like look, it doesn't fall off.
yeah, you'd have to bolt that thing on, Jesus, yeah,
Dude, I don't know. The adhesive has gotten pretty badass. And not
yeah,
only that, you can put patches on them now.
mhm,
So it's like you can have the adhesive, and we had talked about how the adhesive was
takes
bothering
like a
some
layer of
people.
skin off some people,
Yeah, I've seen that in the Dexcom groups, not the
mhm,
Omnipod. But the Omnipod would make me welts every once in a while. It's
mhm.
a thing that happens.
Who
So
who do you
God.
think would be a great spokesperson for, diabetic devices? Like, who do you think?
Hmm. It's a good question. I mean, it would
During the
have to be
Twilight
somebody
phase, you
everybody
coulda got,
loved.
like, Robert Pattinson, like, "Hey,
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock would be"
Bullock.
you think
Yeah. Everybody loves Sandra Bullock. Come
I
on.
don't. I don't.
Oh,
I think
you're
we've talked about that before,
weird.
maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't care for her.
Okay, whatever. Ooh, the kid, Eric Andre. He's in SNL. No, maybe. Yeah, he's in SNL. He was on Two Broke Girls, and he actually played a diabetic wearing an insulin pump in Two Broke Girls. I think it's Eric Andres. Eric Andres.
Eric Andres, the comedian,
Yeah.
yeah, he's actually his family's from Boca Raton,
Are you
and,
serious?
was he on Two Broke Girls or The Bitch in Apartment
He
3B or
was
something like that?
on Two
He's got the
Broke
Eric Andres
Girls.
show, right?
Yeah, Eric Andre. And he
Yeah.
was on Two Broke Girls
Mhm,
and played a diabetic. And I thought that that was really, really interesting because,
mhm,
I mean, like other than Kristen Stewart, who
mhm,
actually played a diabetic,
mhm.
Kristen Stewart did in Panic Room with Jodie Foster. And she
That was
played
Kristen
the
Stewart in Panic
dude. I
Room?
know it hurts me too, but it
That was
was.
Kristen Stewart?
Swear
The
to
one that
God.
went on to Twilight? She played the little
Yeah, yeah,
girl?
no, the one who, yeah,
Really? I
she
never
was the
picked up on that,
daughter.
but I've never seen Twilight either, so,
Oh God, it's awful. So,
uh,
anyhow, but she played it, and she actually did a good job in acting as if
mhm,
she was having a low blood sugar, and that's what was
mhm,
panic. Like the robbers in the house,
mhm.
they're stuck in the panic room.
And she's got the little sweats going on
She's
and stuff.
got the sweating and the not being
Mhm,
able to talk, and actually starts to go into a
mhm,
coma. And it wasn't bad. Like for somebody who's been in the comas and been in
mhm.
that situation, I was like,
That
she
that
wasn't it's the only time she was a really good actress is when she's playing
that
one
should
having a
be a
coma.
whole new category at the Oscars, best portrayal of a diabetic in a movie,
Best
and
portrayal of, I mean, really any disease. I'm sure a lot of
right,
people think that.
yeah.
But yeah, definitely
I like
definitely
that with the
diabetes.
with two broke girls and Eric Andres. They're like, look, it's we need another character, like some neighbor character. Like, oh, we can do gay. Everybody's done gay. Oh, we can do nerdy. Everybody's done dirty nerdy. Let's make them diabetic. Yes, because that's a
Oh,
defining factor of a person. Let's throw
well,
that.
like that's a great like how do you figure up that character? You know,
On.
you how do you build that character up in your mind other than like, yeah, no, okay,
Mhm,
he's gonna be in a cooking class, but we're gonna make him
mhm.
a diabetic.
Maybe a writer on the show just had an annoying ex girlfriend that always needed to inject, and he's like, "Look, I'm going to pitch this once, taking this from real life. Let's see if you like it." They're like, "Sold,
It
done."
should have had then, thanks to blah, blah, blah at the end for being
Right.
the hateful type 1 diabetic in my
There
life.
should be a group of you that get together and just go, "Look, there are so few roles that portray diabetics, and we're tired of non-diabetics taking all
Oh
the
my
diabetic
god. No,
roles.
I'm
We
not
want
gonna
proper
whataboutism
representation of
anything.
diabetics in Hollywood now."
No, I I hate the stupid diabetic jokes. Like, I hate the, "Oh, look at that dessert. It's gonna make you a diabetic," and blah, and
Mhm,
it just that gets really, really annoying.
mhm,
But I just it would be nice if they showed, like, if they were still doing Big Bang Theory, them walking into their cafeteria and someone shooting themselves up with insulin. It's not
mhm,
like, are they a drug dealer? Because they're
mhm,
all really smart and scientists and doctors and all that. Other
mhm.
than what's his face? You're not
That's
a
right.
fan of Big Bang Theory, are you?
No, we were actually talking about that on my other show last night when we were recording. I'm like, I
You
just find it,
serious?
I just find it odd. I've never seen a full episode. I just find it odd though that you have this show about like five geniuses basically, and
Yeah.
all of them are white except for one Indian guy. Like, really,
Yeah.
you have a show where you can basically pick and pull. Like, really, not one
Yeah.
Asian guy made it into that lineup. Not one black dude made it into the lineup. You could have gone multicultural and showed that everybody has a genius gene. And you're like, nope,
True.
four white guys and an Indian because we got to do some telemarketing jokes later on in season 3 when we dry up of real ideas.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I can give you that. However, the idea of the show
Mm-hmm.
and the actors were amazing. Just like I feel that Friends was a great show.
Yeah,
I,
because everybody that lives in New York is
Mhm.
white.
No, 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 okay, but
Now,
we
I think I
realized.
see the themes of the shows you enjoy here,
Shut up!
Michelle.
Shut up! Shut up! I was a huge Family Matters, and I like trashy ass shows too.
Oh,
So,
wait a minute. How'd it go from Family Matters and trashy ass shows? You're like, I like that one show and all the other garbage
where's
shows.
my pen? You were less
Right.
annoying with my pen. So, yeah, I mean, we all knew that you couldn't get an apartment that looked like that for
Hmm.
that amount of money
Yeah.
working the jobs they were. We knew that. And
Hmm.
and have coffee every single day.
Hmm.
Like 2 hour
And
coffee
not only that,
breaks.
but like Joey was constantly being carried on rent by Chandler.
Yep.
So Chandler not only made enough for his share of an apartment like that in New York,
Yeah.
but enough to carry his struggling actor friend Joey as
And
well. I'm like,
what was he? Some bullshit like data analyst or something. He did papers, a lot of papers,
yeah,
numbers. It was
yeah,
good times.
yeah,
So but yeah, that's whatever.
yeah.
Eric
They should
Andre
have
would be
made
great.
Joey. They should have made Joey a diabetic.
No, him and his meatball subs, that would be a lot of
Hmm.
yeah, that would have been a good idea.
Yeah, and as forgetful as he is, it's the one thing he always gets right.
No, that's when they needed Dexcom back then that would just
Mhm.
alarm constantly.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe they should have made Ross diabetic because he already seemed very
Oh, like
neurotic and yeah,
wussy.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
his
he could
own
pass
body
out
would
every
beat
time he
himself
has to take
out.
a needle. Yeah,
Oh god, and he got the monkey as like a diabetic alert
like
monkey. It would be a
is that a
dam.
thing? Is that a thing
No, I don't know with monkeys. With dogs,
with
they
dogs?
can
Right.
actually train dogs to be
Hmm.
able to pick up on the sense for when or when your blood sugar levels go up or down.
Do you know back in like 2007, there was an article that hit the papers, and there was a what they called the Grim Reaper cat, Grim Reaper, per cat up in upstate New
Ouch.
York. And this cat, they said, senses death. Like it lived in a nursing home,
I do
and
remember that weird ass
it,
story.
yeah, it would go curl up at the foot of the beds
Mhm.
of all these or not patrons, but residents, and
Yeah,
then like,
patience.
yeah, but like within the next day or so, that person would die, and they
Yeah.
were like, "Oh my god, this cat's the Grim Reaper. This cat senses
Yeah.
death." I'm like, "How do we know these people weren't like allergic to cats?" You know,
That would
like,
be so messed up.
and, yeah, and I'll give it to you. Like maybe it got the first two right, but after that, these old people are just already scared of the rumor.
Well,
You see
yeah,
that
they
cat come in your
know.
door, you got a weak heart. You're like, "This is my time."
It's like, listen, when Boots comes in here and jumps
Hmm.
up on my bed, I'm just gonna have a heart attack and
Oh,
die at that
dude,
point.
I would have been pouring tuna juice on everybody's blanket, just trying to, yeah. I'm like, steal
That'd be
my
great.
Jello. You're next. You want to live longer? Close your door. That's all.
That is true though, but que sera, sera.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can say that the diabetic alert dogs are definitely a thing. They like service dogs can not only alert you, they can also deal with it. So they've been trained, they can open up the refrigerator and literally grab you a juice box.
I thought they had like in those like Looney Tunes
No,
cartoons
no, the St. Bernard like
with whiskey, but
barrels.
instead it'd be like
Yeah,
insulin. They could open it
yeah,
up and just
no,
put in an IV.
no.
But speaking of dogs, dogs actually
Hmm.
have a major play
Huge.
in history in diabetes, huh?
Well, okay, so funny thing is I've looked into the history of like insulin and what have you, but I've
Hmm.
never really looked into it from just the diabetes point of way. I've never wondered when it was ever mentioned or anything like that. So I was doing some digging,
Hmm.
and on the NCBI, NLM, NIH, and that's National Center for Biotechnology Information, National Library of Medicine, and National Institute of Health on their
Yeah,
government
like who
website.
didn't know that?
Exactly. So on their government website, they talk about it, and like the fact that diabetes was actually first mentioned during Egyptian times, so we're like 3,000 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, it was mentioned because of the sweet smell of normally the dead people's urine, and the
Hmm.
fact that when whatever the urine would get on the ground, ants would flock to only that one person
Hmm.
only that one person's urine. So it was weird, and they just described it as a sweet smell.
And the reason for that is because when you're dead, obviously.
Dude, apparently you died from a Snickers. No, because for type 1 diabetics, we dump all of the sugar that our body can't use, which when as a type 1, you can't use any of it. And it all goes out our kidneys. It all
Hmm.
collects in our urine, and that can
Hmm.
be very dangerous for your kidneys. So
Hmm.
that's when they first mentioned it. And then um, around what was it, 1675, the term I'm going to say it wrong. Diabetes
Mellitus? Yeah, let's go
mellitus.
with that.
Yeah, okay. So that means sweet like honey. So they called it that because again, the sweet smell of the urine and of sometimes just the person in general. They would have sweet breath, which,
Hmm.
if you remember, is a big sign of hyperglycemia, meaning you're going too
Right,
high.
right.
So
Like a fruity smell, right?
exactly.
Or a
So
rotting fruit, maybe. What is it? Something like
it's
that.
juicy fruit. It's a
Juicy
juicy
fruit.
fruit smell. Yeah.
Okay.
So 1776, a British doctor actually was able to prove that he that there was too much sugar in the urine and blood.
Hmm.
So that was what was causing that fruitiness.
Hmm.
So you figure, okay, that was 244 years ago. That it was like, hey, too much sugar in the urine, bad thing,
Hmm.
causing all these problems. They did a lot of experimentation. A lot of it was on dogs. You brought up
Okay.
dogs earlier, and
Yeah, I seem to remember having read a story about like
mhm,
a a dog, like some scientist, I thought it was a French scientist, had observed that a dog like peed, and for
mhm,
some reason that flies were going to that dog's pee more
right,
than like a normal dog, and then he was
right.
like, "Oh, let's cut him open." Or I
That was
believe that's probably how the
closer,
story went. Yeah.
and totally. That was closer, 1920s when
Ooh, okay, that long.
Dr. Frederick Banting,
Oh
and his
yeah, 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 of
colleagues,
course.
Charles Best. Oh God, I can't remember the third guy's name. But they noticed that. So what they ended up doing is actually taking the insulin from a cow and
Hmm.
injecting it into the dog,
Hmm.
and notice that, hey, when we do this, the dog appears healthier, doesn't have flies congregating around its pee,
Hmm.
is more
And
lively.
starts producing milk and tastes better.
So, in but crazy enough, in 1889, there were some scientists that decided that they were going to take a normal healthy dog
Hmm.
and remove the pancreas from the
Hmm.
dog. That was it, just the pancreas. They sewed
Hmm.
him back up. He quickly had the same sugar urine and what have you, and then
Uh-huh.
died. So it was all kind of built upon different experiments and different people just noticing a same
Hmm.
line of things. It wasn't until 1922
Hmm.
that the first dose of insulin was administered to a human. It
And
was
what
a
was the first insulin? Where'd they get it from?
they did get it from cows.
Okay, so they tried it on dogs and then went to cows with
Mm,
cow insulin?
Yeah, well, they tried cow insulin on dogs,
Mhm.
and then they tried cow insulin on humans.
Okay.
And so, and I'm sure maybe there were some other animals that popped up and around, but
Sure.
those are the ones that they talk about. And they administered it to a kid who was in this children's ward for diabetes, and all of them in there were dying. They were withering away. And of course, you didn't have before, prior to Dr. Banting, you didn't have insulin. So they came in and they gave it to the patient, Leonard Thompson. And there's pictures of him online from where he's this skeleton looking child to after using insulin, fullness in the cheeks, a black and white photo. So I would
Mhm.
assume rosy red cheeks, but you can see just like the health and
Mhm.
the wellness go back to him. So I thought
Mhm.
that that was really interesting. So
Mhm.
98 years ago,
Mhm.
they developed the first insulin.
And that's when they're like, "How much does it cost?" They're like, "Pennies." And they're like, "Great, we will charge $500 a vial."
Exactly. I mean, you got to figure Banting and his colleagues each sold it for a dollar. Sold just the knowledge out there. They were like, I'm sorry. They were like, I can't benefit from
Mhm.
this. This is going
Yeah.
to save people's lives. So I really, I mean, what I don't remember the company, the seatbelt, that technology was kind of that was donated in the same way of
Mhm.
a company just saying we can't hold this for ourselves. These are going to save lives of anybody who drives any car. It's
Mhm.
kind of nice to just see that though those people have already died and we probably won't ever have anybody like that again, it's still nice to see that they were like that they cared enough to.
Oh, it's just funny that the people who invented this stuff give it like no patent or like, "Hey, this is free use for all." And then
Mhm.
other people still find a way to going, "Well, thank you, but now we're gonna take it and find a way to profit with it."
Exactly. So I mean, today things have gotten considerably harder
Mm.
because as we've talked about before, there's no differing no, there's no putting one to one of what is type 1 diabetes and what is type 2 diabetes.
Mhm.
They kind of put them all together, and it's usually on most forms it'll say diabetes, what do we decide we were going to call it, mellitus,
Mhm.
and it'll be controlled or uncontrolled.
Mhm.
That's the only thing that gets checked. It
Well, I
doesn't
think
say
we
type
talked about
1.
we talked about that last week. I think it's
Hmm.
a cost-effective thing for them because only
Oh yeah.
5% of all diabetic cases are type 1. So they're like, "We're
Yeah,
just gonna lump you in there because we can't afford
exactly.
to separate it, we'd have to open another
That's
file
another
on the computer."
box. I
Ugh.
just can't do that. It's
Ah.
like, so yeah, it was funny. I learned because I looked up more on type 1. And so
Mhm.
type 1 is described by the autoimmune destruction of insulin producing pancreatic cells, also
Mhm.
known as islet cells. So they don't say that you're type 1 until 80 to 90% of your cells are gone. Usually, it's diagnosed in kids with hyperglycemia, yeah, hyperglycemia, DK in hospitals. Blood sugar is so high that they need hospital intervention to bring it down.
Mhm.
But the thing is, even on all of the websites that I was on, nobody knows the trigger. You can have the genes for it,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that you're going to get it. And so they have to keep coming up with all these other types of type 1. There's type 1A, which is like 70 to 90% of the diabetic population. And that means that basically, yeah, you show the DNA markers that your body was going to kick its own ass.
Mhm.
Sorry about your luck. Then there's type 1B, which literally is just the remainders, like the can't really, don't know why you opened the wrong door sort of
Mm.
thing. There's LADA, which is latent adult onset. that just means that they get diagnosed with type 1 later in life.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, but there's so many and they just keep adding names, but they don't that doesn't help what causes it.
Hmm.
Could it be genetics? Could it be some people have when they first started diagnosing older people, it was, "Oh, they must be obese." Oh, well, you find that they're not obese. The
Mhm.
percentage of patients who aren't obese. Okay, well, bad eating habits. Oh, well, did another survey, this came back, blah, 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 blah. How are you going to cure something that you don't know why it started?
Hmm.
And I think that that's a big problem. And like I said, all these different, the American Diabetes Association, I went on the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, JDRF,
Mhm.
and they still have juvenile diabetes in their name, but they all said that this has been around for so long,
Mhm.
and yet we know really nothing about it.
When's the earliest that type 1 can be determined? Like, I know we had, was it Colleen on the show that was
13 months.
13 months old, and
I
at the time,
mean,
she was the youngest diagnosed. But I mean,
mhm,
is it something like even with my 2 kids now, when they were in the womb, they were already telling me, "Hey, we did tests on this and tests on this, and we've already,
mhm,
seen this, so we're gonna have to probably take care of this or whatever." I'm wondering, like, I'm probably way off, but
mhm.
does it go back to something like during your formative, like, can it be is there anything like when your mother's pregnant with you that can
Mhm.
affect it, or is it any eating habits there,
It's
or is
it's
it
really it's a toss up. They do not know. I
hmm,
mean, there's you have to remember that, like, okay, so as a type 1, when I got pregnant with my daughter, my goal was to not go have high blood sugar because that made you have a larger baby. You had a
mhm,
larger baby because their pancreas was working for you, was
right,
like just helping.
mhm,
And so made the growth rate increase. I was a very normal sized baby coming out. I never had any serious illnesses. I mean,
mhm.
chicken pox, but like, come on, we
Who doesn't?
were in the
Yeah,
age that it was chicken pox parties,
yeah,
but never had anything severe.
mhm.
And then all of a sudden it hit. So there's no rhyme or reason on why I got it, and nobody else in my family has it. It's not like there's been a huge pop up of a lot of people having it from where I was born or where I lived.
No
So
one
I
on
mean,
either side of your family diabetic?
no,
Mhm,
type 2
right,
diabetes, but they
right.
show no correlation between the other.
You
So
got
it's like
DNA test?
I actually haven't had a DNA test
Now's
done.
the time.
Apparently, I mean, I guess I should make sure that I don't have alien DNA or whatever in there that, that's why I'm
Mhm.
diabetic.
Yeah. Mom, you got something you wanna tell me and dad? I did this 23andMe. Turns out me and dad have nothing in common. Yet I got all this in signs with all these larger people from Milwaukee. And
See, if I
yeah.
didn't look so much like my dad, I'd agree with you, but like,
Oh, then maybe your mom's not your mom.
ooh, dad hit it up with an
Bum bum
alien.
bum.
I mean, he did work
Mm,
long hours.
mhm.
But no,
Um,
it's one of those things. It would be interesting to see if I show the markers
mhm.
for it, if, but I see it a lot like, and this is going to sound kind of bad, maybe, but you know how when people get their DNA tested and they're looking for the one DNA marker to show that you have like a huge chance of getting breast cancer.
Mhm.
Okay. I put it on the same line as that.
Yeah.
It could tell me, well, I mean, obviously now if it tells me I have the marker, no shit. But if I had it done for my daughter and it came back and it said, she has the DNA markers, it doesn't mean she'll be a diabetic.
Right.
A lot of people ask me if I was going to do it because, well, don't you want to know so you can limit? And it's like, I I am very very strict on what she eats.
Mhm.
I And that's not knowing. I can't
Right.
know and then just cause myself constant stress and
Right.
cause her constant stress.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's
Well,
little things like that.
who was who was the guest we had on the show that her and her brother were both diabetic, but they had another sibling that was, like, free and clear?
Oh, Kelly
Kelly,
Porter?
right? Yep, yep.
Yes, and yeah, I mean, but it's one of those things that you can't the stress of it being unknown, like, I don't wanna know if I have the breast cancer marker,
Mhm.
because if I do, I do, and if I'm not checking and then, that sucks, but
Well,
I'm not gonna worry about it.
I went to the doctor for the first time since I was, like, 9 years old last year, and people were shocked to hear that, and they're like, "Why? Why did you wait so long?" I'm like, "I'm just one of those people where
No news is
it."
good news.
Exactly. I'm like, "What if I go and they tell me all this?" I'm like, "I don't want that knowledge," and then,
Yeah,
"What if you're dying from something?" I'm like, "Yeah, but even healthy people can get hit by a bus tomorrow, when
that
it's your time,
that
it's your
is
time."
true.
I
That
like to
is
live in my
true.
little naive ignorance, but what if there's something you can do to, take care of something and extend your I'm like, "Yeah, but what if I go and they go, 'Hey, if you had come by 6 months ago, we could help you,' but
Now
instead
you're
you got 3
fucked.
I never wanna know, the time limit. I never wanna know I have 3 months.
I agree.
We had a guest on the show who basically her doctor told her, "You don't get married, don't go to college,
Mhm.
you're not
You're
gonna
just
have
gonna
children."
die.
Yep, that was Tracy Herbert, right?
Was it Tracy or was it Cotton?
Tracy Herbert, she rode her bike,
Yes, yes, yeah,
yeah,
no, I remember Tracy. I was
yeah,
just saying, is she the one that said that? We've
yeah,
talked to so many people with so unfortunate
mm,
stories. I mean,
mm.
just
Or
it's hard.
fortunate, depending how you look at it, because she,
Okay,
basically used that
well,
as
Tracy.
fuel. She used that as fuel to be like, "F you, here's what I'm doing with my
Yes,
life." And,
yes.
yeah,
Wrote books and
I think that's crappy as hell, like, it's sad that it makes it in every movie when the doctors are like, "We're giving you 3 weeks," like, I would
yeah,
rather you just be like, "You could have 3 weeks, you could have 30 years,"
you could have 3 minutes.
even if you know I got 3 weeks, I don't wanna spend that 3 weeks counting down clocks. I just wanna be like, "Hey, you got this, we don't know," you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I completely agree. But it's like for people like my dad, he didn't go to the doctors for years and years and years and years and years. He
Mhm.
hadn't gotten blood work done since he married my mom.
Right?
Uh, it's just not something he did. And had he not broken his elbow
Mhm.
at work, he would have never gone to the doctors. And once they took like his blood pressure and his labs, they were like, "Holy hell!
Mhm.
Like, how are you still alive?"
Mhm.
And I mean, I think his blood pressure was like 164 over 100.
Mm.
I mean, bananas. And his blood sugar was through the roof. But my dad's never been in great shape.
Mhm.
So I can see how he wouldn't have noticed the signs. It could have given him a heart attack, though. It could have led up to extremely big problems if he had never found out he was type 2.
Yeah.
His mom died of a heart attack. So it's like, so you have to try to go to the doctor
Mhm.
more
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, just tell him to give you a happy face or a sad face.
Mhm.
That's it. Don't tell me anything I don't want to know. Just
Mhm.
happy face, sad face. So
Mhm.
I know whether I'm going to leave here going woohoo or
Mhm.
not. You need stickers.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like about what my insurance plan covers too. Like, we're not gonna give you results, just on the way out, we'll give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Yeah, exactly. And we both know how I feel about insurance companies and how much I
Mhm,
hate them, and they're
mhm,
so special. But, you
mhm,
know, so we were also going to touch back because we've talked about the different ways people have said we were going to cure, like I was going to cure my diabetes by having cinnamon with every meal and what have you.
mhm. Yep.
And we've had people tell us all kind of cold showers. Colleen with cold showers. I mean,
Mhm.
the
Pumpkin seeds and
pumpkin seeds. Oh God.
yep, just eating healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
I mean,
but
but it's funny because there's so many myths about
mhm,
it. Obesity causing type 1 is a big one.
mhm.
They assume that like, oh, the kid's just really fat. It's
Yeah,
okay.
and then, maybe it's definitely biased, but whenever I meet a larger person, I just assume they have diabetes, type 2 at least. And there's a lot of large people walking around that eat whatever they want. So they're like,
Least.
yeah, at least type 2 diabetes, because type 2 is the one that, like, when you get to a certain age, people like, okay, like even me, they're like, hey, you got to be careful what you eat because you do have diabetes in your family and you have a chance of, going into
You're
pre-diabetic.
pre-diabetic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but isn't like
whatever.
everybody pre-diabetic?
I mean, it was like it's like looking at the BMI index and realizing it hasn't changed in
Mhm.
however many years and going like, well, this says I'm obese.
Yeah, I trust me, I'm right there, which is funny because when I look back at, like, I was scrawny up until like probably my early 30s. I was really, really scrawny. And I would look at the thing and I'm like, no, I'm in the right age range, or weight range for my height, but I
Hmm.
look like a skeleton. I look back at those pictures, I'm like, how was that healthy? And now I feel like I got a few extra pounds, but I feel like I'm healthier. And then I look down
Oh,
and I'm
that's
like, well,
good.
according to this, I am obese.
Yeah. I mean, when I had my transplant and I was vomiting constantly,
Hmm.
I was down to the perfect like BMI. My
Yeah.
doctors were like, "Oh my god!" And I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna throw up water. You have to give
That's
me a
right.
second."
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of diabetics feel judged most of the time, not just the larger people, but
Hmm.
I mean, people know I have diabetes, and if they see me eating like a piece of chocolate, they'll either lose their shit on me. What are you doing? Blah, 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 you're going to die.
Hmm.
Or then they'll disregard my diabetes in whole. It's like, well, you're doing this to yourself.
Yeah, I remember hanging out with you at time and knowing that it wasn't worth the argument to try and keep an elephant ear out of your mouth. I'm like, she knows what she's doing, and she knows she's going to take like 2 vials later for that.
Yep.
But also the
Yep.
joy you got from elephant ears. I was like, okay, let her have it.
I
And
don't like calling them elephant ears.
what are they?
Funnel cakes. Funnel
There you go,
cakes.
funnel cakes. But they're the same thing. They're
Elephant ears. Yes.
fried dough with
Covered in
powdered
sugar.
sugar.
I didn't want anything else. I didn't want the ice cream on top of it or the apple caramel sauce on top of it.
Hmm.
No, I was fine. Just give me the powdered sugar and
Oh, when I was at Epcot the other day, I don't usually get one, but I like
mm.
swung by and got like a strawberry crepe. And I guess they're opening up a whole restaurant there that's just gonna be like a crepe factory. And I gotta tell you, it was so good, so
Dude,
good.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I could go to City Walk. They have that one restaurant there. Isn't the one restaurant that
The
took over?
Chocolatorium type place took over like
Yes.
NBA City or whatever.
Yes, I
Yeah,
think it was NBA. God, NBA City.
it's so
Um,
terrible.
but to think like I can't. I'm gonna walk in there and my blood sugar is just gonna start to raise. Like I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna have to eat anything.
I don't know. I might be one of the only people that when they post pictures of the desserts and drinks over there, where they have like a
Hmm.
big mug and a cupcake on top of a
Hmm.
milkshake with some, I'm like, that does nothing for me. I'm like, that looks disgusting. It's like I
It
wouldn't
would
even
be an
finish that.
experience,
Hmm.
but not exactly a good one because you
Hmm.
know you're gonna have a tummy ache later.
Well,
Like there's no getting around that.
what's that place over at by the Orlando Eye or Icon Park? It's like Sugar. The rest they had one out in Vegas too. It's like Sugar Pop Restaurant or
Oh,
something.
something weird like that. I don't know. It makes me
And
sad.
everything you see is just like over the top sugar. Like even as a kid, I think I'd be like, yeah, that seems a bit much.
That
It's,
seems a bit excessive.
yeah,
I just want
yeah.
a swirly cone with
Mm.
sprinkles.
Well,
Yeah.
I know you were doing some research this week, looking at the history of diabetes and
Mhm.
some of the stories and stuff. And did you come up with any myths that we haven't hit upon yet? Did you find anything along the lines of, I can't believe that's out there?
I mean, like I said, we've talked about the quick fixes. We've caught. Oh, and of course, is it contagious? Which,
Diabetes.
yeah, which I have actually heard quite a few times, like
Mm,
going through school or whatever.
mm,
Kids wouldn't exactly want to sit next to me on the bus
mm,
because they were like, "Oh my god, you have diabetes."
uh,
Blah. I'm like, dude, you can't catch
mm,
it.
mm,
But to think that that was a
Yeah.
mindset.
Can you just see, like, on a first date, "Look, I really had a good time with you, but before we go any further, there's something I have to let you know. I'm a diabetic." "What?"
Diabetic.
"Look, I was young. I met a guy. He didn't tell me he was diabetic, and things happened, and now it's my cross to bear. But I just wanna tell you I'm really into you, and just I have to tell you because
I hope you don't judge me.
there's extra precautions we have to take."
You
Yeah.
have to wash
"You
your
know
hands
what?
after every meal.
I just feel like you're a great girl, but I'm not ready for this kind of responsibility. I just kinda wanna be a kid."
Exactly. Here, just
Yeah.
take this metformin and we can go out on a date. It'll be
Or
fine.
or, like, you break up and, like, a month later, you're at the doctor and you're like, "I have what? You have diabetes." "Oh," and you're just leaving messages like, "You better go get yourself checked. Can't believe you gave me diabetes.
Oh
Oh,
my god. I
gonna
mean,
blow up your Facebook."
but really the biggest myths are how type 1 is only for kids and outgrow it, and then you'll just
Outgrow
be
it.
in oh yeah. Then you'll just mean you're an irresponsible type 2.
Mhm,
Um, I mean, I've heard everything or read everything from lazy to sex with demons, alien
mhm.
DNA. We can't forget about that.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
But I'm sure they're very, very
Was
good
that the
people.
was that the doctor who just came out talking about the COVID being or hydroxychloroquine was the solution? And then they found out she also practiced, like, voodoo or
Yeah,
something and,
yeah.
said that what was it? Women get diseases
Because
because
they have sex with
in their
demons.
dreams.
In their
Yeah,
dreams, yes.
in their
No, I'm
dreams, right.
sorry. I didn't say in their dreams before. I
Mm,
meant in their dreams.
mhm,
So I
yeah,
mean, she apparently she has a very active imagination, but
mm, and a degree from some small island
oh
nobody's
my
ever heard of.
god. And
Yeah,
the endorsement of of governmental characters.
mhm, yeah, that's you would think they would research the backgrounds of people before they just throw them up there to speak. They're like,
Right.
"Look, that Dr. Anthony Fauci guy, yeah, he's got a lot of fancy degrees, and he's been through a couple of these things, and, he's a virologist, but, we found this woman who's willing to say exactly what I was thinking."
She used to work for Miss Cleo, but
Yes.
she decided to go into medicine instead.
Yeah,
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 that's kind of where it feels. So, I mean, it's the ignorance,
mm,
it's the misinformation and the ignorance of people, and nobody cares about it enough to Google it unless you have it or you have it somebody in your family, close family that has it. Even then, like I love my close family, but
mhm,
they don't get it.
yeah,
So it's just a really misunderstood and obviously not a very well researched disease.
mhm.
Like I don't see how it's been this much time and we still don't have any better knowledge about it than we did really 94 years ago.
Yeah, so I guess it's to the point now, um, where it's not so much about, look, obviously, there's no fast track cure on the way,
Mhm.
but the care and treatment that you provide for it, I think that can be stepped up greatly. And we've talked about in the
Yes.
past, like, what's the minimum you think people should have? And I know you've said
Mhm.
before you feel like younger people with type 1 should at least learn how to do all the math themselves and give themselves needles and
Totally.
not rely on the technology at all. But I also feel like that the equipment needed to make your life easier should be standard amongst insurance companies. Like, look, you can't just
Right.
give everybody strips and needles. I mean, I'm sure there's type 2s out there that's all they need. They're like, look, I don't
Mhm.
want a
And they do
meter, I
well
don't
on
want
it.
sensors, I'm good.
Mhm.
But like someone like a type 1 who needs constant monitoring, they shouldn't be going through a situation where they got to decide, am I paying my bills or am I going to eat, or
Right.
do I spend all this money on the thing that helps me live every day?
Exactly. Colleen and I actually were the ones speaking about that because she was like, she was, we had told her about Tracy's
Mhm.
charity
Yeah,
and how it was
great
helping
charity.
kids. Yep.
Mhm.
And how it was helping kids get the information or get the supplies that
The
they needed.
technology, yeah.
Right. And, you know, she had said, "Well, what happens when the technology fails?" And she's totally right. Like
Mhm.
in the times of when we've gotten bad hurricanes, and I don't know if I can get the back then I was on pumps. I didn't know if I could get the supplies that I needed.
Mhm.
I had to revert back to just the basics.
The manual method, yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, it was wanting the kids to learn how to do that, but I say I would advocate for the kids getting Dexcoms or some type of
Mhm.
continuous glucose monitoring, not
Yeah.
just for the kid, but for the
Mhm.
parents. Because you know what? If you don't know why your kid is screaming their head off over nothing, maybe it's because their
Mhm.
blood sugar's high.
You know what I did love about Colleen? That she
Mm.
actually put her husband on, like, what
Oh
was
my
that? A
god.
saline pump?
Yes. Yes. She
That
just
like, that's a
bam
whole
stuck him with that.
and I gotta tell you, as soon as she told me that, and as soon as she told me that he went along with it, I was
Had to
like,
wear it for a week.
it reminded me of the guys who, when their wives get pregnant, they wear the,
The
maternity
belly.
vest, the belly and
Yes.
everything.
Or they go through labor with the sensors and the
Yeah.
yeah.
And as soon as she said that, I'm like, "You hang on to that guy. That
I
sounds like
know.
a good dude." Because
I know. He was
if you had told me at one point, like, "Look, I'm gonna stick a needle," I'm like, "It was nice knowing you."
I
I'm like,
know.
"I
And
don't do
remember the
needles."
needles back then.
Mhm. Yep. I
I
don't do needles. I don't
no.
like
No.
them.
And that's understandable. I mean,
Mhm.
nobody does. You
Yeah,
know,
but
I
I
don't
have
like
a
skip to
irrational
my
fear of them, though.
needles.
Yeah.
I don't you know, I
I remember going to see, like, Saw 5 or 6, whatever, when she fell into the
no,
bin of
no, okay,
needles,
I couldn't watch that
and
either, and I'd
and
been a diabetic for how long?
and I
Oh
looked at
my
my
god.
date, I'm like, "Did we need more popcorn?" "No, we got plenty of popcorn." "I'm gonna go get more popcorn. I'll be back." And just going into the
Oh my
bathroom and
god.
bleh.
So I watched the behind the scenes on that because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, I what do you how do you"
'Cause you
it
want to torture yourself more?
dude, it
That's
was so cool watching the makeup though,
uh,
and, you know, knowing you're gonna fall into a vat of what just looks like syringes, but it's not really and you're gonna no. No,
nope.
no, no.
Nope,
No,
I'm
no,
good.
no. But I mean, you know, and of course that brings me to the biggest myth that insulin is a cure.
Ah.
And it's not. I mean, it is
Mhm,
simply what gets us from day to day.
mhm,
If they were to stop making it, or you know, if it was to become one of those things that was hard to find, like, you know, toilet paper at the beginning of a pandemic,
mhm,
um, we would die. Like there's nothing you can do
mhm,
to prolong your life without it. There's no amount of good food. You might not have to use as much, like a
mhm,
certain diets and what have you might have you using less than 5 units a day. I use
mhm,
40
mhm.
normally, but less than 5 units a day. That is great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because basically insulin, you're not injecting it, it's going to fight off some disease or kill any cells
No,
in you. It's basically your body doesn't produce what you need to live, so you
right?
have to physically inject it into your body. So
Absolutely.
there's no way that that insulin's going into you and it's like, "Oh, it's taking out all the bad cells and replacing it with good." It's like, "No,
You
this
wanted
is."
to eat chocolate? We'll just go and soak that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no cure for diabetes
No.
right now.
No. And I mean, we've been told 5 more years, 5 more years,
Mhm,
and we'll get a cure. 5 more years, and it's a joke now. You go onto the diabetic groups, and they'll post something about the newest
mhm.
way to end diabetes, and they're like, it's just 5 more years.
Yeah. And now you have in the last 10 years seen some actual things like they did the transplants and you were in a
Yes.
test group of how many people on that one?
The first one was six.
And weren't
Six, six.
didn't you have wasn't there like some TV show or some research following you on that or was it a
It was
study that they were tracking you? What was going on?
It was, Diabetic Research Institute, so DRI TV, and they have
Mhm.
some YouTube videos.
Mhm.
Um, they don't show mine, but that's probably because it wasn't a success.
Mm,
Uh, so
nobody likes to talk about their failures. We never
yeah.
discuss my little brother.
So yeah, Bugs Bunny took me out, and because I
Mhm.
was allergic to rabbit protein, and
Mhm.
I got to be a part of an amazing experience. Like, I got to learn
Mhm.
so much about my diabetes, so
Mhm.
much more than I had ever been told or ever really understood. And
Mhm.
to sit at this table with 3 to 4 doctors, nurses, research students, scholars just sitting there and them talking to you about the disease and what each thing means and what have you, it was huge. It made me really respect the research that's going on for it.
Mhm.
Because, like, they're only in it for a cure. That's all they want
Right.
is just a cure.
Is there any how long were you in that study for? Because you were driving to Miami, like, what, every other month at times?
Yeah, I mean, it was rough because I got accepted like 2014, end of
Oh, wow.
2014, yeah. And I got my first transplant 2015.
Mhm.
So it was November 12th, 2015.
Mhm.
And that was the when Bugs Bunny killed me.
Mhm.
And I stayed on the medicines because they had this backup plan. So the first one didn't work, they would offer me something. If I wanted to, I could
Alright.
have the old transplant that they had done for the last 10 years. And that
Okay.
was putting the cells into my liver instead of just into my abdomen.
Mhm.
So I opted for that. So I stayed on that, and then oh my god, I'm not going to be able to remember my last transplant date. July?
Mhm.
Shit, I don't remember. July. I wanna say a year after. Oh god, I'm so bad with dates. Anyway, I got through their second transplant program where they put it in my liver, and it worked really well for a year and a half.
I was gonna say, you went a good amount of time without
Mhm.
actually having to inject insulin, right?
I know I was always posting like, "Woohoo! Look at me! I don't have it."
Yeah.
But I mean, the downside was the immunosuppressives that they give you so that your body accepts the transplant. And with any transplant, with
Mhm.
most transplants that you have, your body, you need those. So, I mean, people that get lung, liver, whatever, you're on
Because
them.
it's not a perfect match, so it's trying
Yeah,
to
because your body is always going to try to reject something that is not its own. In my
Mhm.
case, it doesn't care if it's its own or not.
Mhm.
But, yeah, it just beat the hell out like,
Your
a year and
body's
a
like
half.
a bouncer that doesn't let anyone in. It's like, "Nope."
Muhammad Ali, it's just mhm. So, I mean, I have to say the immunosuppressives were one of the hardest things. I'd still be on them till this day if I didn't have to take insulin. But it got to
Yeah.
the point that you could see the C-peptide, which is, the amount of insulin that your body is making, a C-peptide. And they can find it out on a lab test. And the
Yeah.
amount that I was making was getting so low.
So minimal that it wasn't even worth
Right.
it.
And that's what it came down to. I mean,
Mhm.
I had to decide between wanting to take 25 to 30 pills a day at the end and doing needles,
Because you weren't
or
creating enough insulin.
right, or just doing needles.
Mhm.
And oh god, I was vomiting so much. I was like 120 pounds of just pure bones. And then I went into my endocrinologist, my diabetes doctor office, and because I threw up in his office like 3 times. I had my own bags, so it's not like I made a mess.
Right.
But he walked in and he saw me. Mm-mm,
You
mm-mm.
just walk around with, like, little airline air sick bags because you know you're gonna need them.
I had Publix bags. I had Publix shopping bags just stuffed in my purse, make sure there's no holes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But, it reminded me of being pregnant because I had the morning sickness that lasted all day for a few
Mhm.
months. That was fun times. So, I was back there again, and he came in after I was done. He's like, "Are you over being on these pills?" "Yeah." I mean, it's just it
It's one of those, I imagine, and I talked to you while you were going through it from time to time,
mhm,
but it's one of those decisions you make where you don't wanna say no because you know this is probably your last chance at
yeah.
something like this, but at the same time, it's I remember you telling me you were trying to decide, is it worth the longer life if this is going to be the quality of life? You know,
Exactly.
so
That's the
what?
question I had to ask myself in the end was, do I want quality over quantity or
Mhm.
vice versa?
Do you have any regrets about that decision, or do you feel like you made the right one?
Not counting the fact that this is pandemic time. So, like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I could have handled being on all that
Hmm.
and having the pandemic because your immune system is such shit
Hmm.
that I was wearing masks a lot of the time right after the transplant just because you
Yeah.
had to be so careful.
Right.
But had it not been in the time of the pandemic, I can't say I would regret it either way, really.
Hmm.
I put myself out there in a way that I never believed I could. I never thought I could be a lab rat. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
I was horrified of needles, and blood draws would make me vomit and pass
Hmm.
out. And I mean, the thought of going into a hospital for surgery and getting IVs and PICC lines, and
Hmm.
it's just I I can't imagine me 10 years ago saying, "Yeah, let's go for it."
Yeah.
So, I have to say that I've learned so much, I've met so many great doctors, and nothing can replace the knowledge that I have.
Hmm.
So, it's nice, and hopefully they continue. I mean, I got a really great email from them that said, "Diabetes doesn't take a vacation or stop because of the pandemic, and neither are we."
Nice.
And I thought that that was really great because it
Yeah.
just shows the care.
There are other people who were in the study that actually it was working for, right? Like full
Yes.
on had great results.
Yes. I don't know of any after me. I was the second patient to get it.
Hmm.
The first gal, I'll only say her first name. Her first name was Wendy, and she had really great success. But still, hers stopped working 3 years, 2.5 years to 3 years after.
So what happens
Sh
when it stops working? Do you go back in and get another implant? Is that what happens?
You can. That's something that they were talking about, but since this was all in the, preclinical trials, I don't know if she did. However, she didn't stop the immunosuppressive. She just started taking a little bit of insulin, and a
Okay.
little bit was covering her.
Hmm.
And she, I mean, even said there, because I met her, we were crossing each other at the labs, and
Hmm.
I was like, "That's really great to hear that you're on less insulin." She's like, "I couldn't ask for better." Of course, you want the best result, but you can't ask for a better result.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that point of view. I just found that in the middle of it, or actually, being in the midst, that I had to stop it. I had to
Hmm.
stop it for me, for how I felt about myself. I mean, just getting back to a normal life, and nothing's normal right now, but
Right. Right.
um I'm in a much better place, like, mentally and emotionally.
Hmm. Oh, good.
So yeah, well, we're running a little bit past, but is there anything else you need to know that I can be super helpful on?
No, I think I got my fill. I know
Awesome.
we were gonna have guests. We decided not to have a guest this week because we wanted to kind of go. We've been meaning to go over like the history and the
Yeah.
science behind it, and talk a little bit more about your going through the transplant and whatnot.
Hmm.
So, you got some good ideas for guests coming up?
Oh, I do. I have a guest. I'm not going to ruin it because, well, I don't want to call her out, and then if she doesn't show up, I get. So, yes, we have a guest, a type 1 diabetic. I'm still trying to get a type 2 diabetic. They don't really like to talk as
They're too
much.
busy having easy lives. They don't have time to podcast.
See, that's why they don't want to talk to us, because you keep saying it's an easy life. See,
I know,
it's your fault. So,
100%.
still looking for, type 2 or a
Hmm.
gestational diabetic. I would love
Hmm.
any other kind of diabetic to just kind of
Hmm.
hear their story
Hmm.
and how things are for them. So we'll keep looking.
Well, seeing that type Type 1s make up only 5% of all diabetics. I think we could really actually get all type 1s on this show. Every
You
type 1
know,
ever.
I am rooting for it, and I
Mhm.
am blowing people up, going like, "Hey, don't you want to come on and bitch? Like,
Yeah.
we're funny, so come on.
Yeah.
I'm funny, so come on."
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I appreciate the show. I think that it's just good things. I mean,
Mhm.
it's good to talk about something that not a lot of people want to talk about, and hopefully we can just open up people's minds a little bit to stop asking if we should just have cinnamon.
Well, if that's all we accomplish, then we've done something.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Dying with Diabetes in America. As always, we appreciate you listening, and we'll be back next week. Say goodbye, Michelle.
Goodbye, Michelle.